Ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm ready to be heard again because the Buffalo Bills are set to face off against the Arizona Cardinals at Highmark Stadium this Sunday at 1 p.m. EST. And today I am giving you my full preview and prediction. If you are new here and unfamiliar with how I structure these preview videos, definitely pack a lunch because we are going to be having a long and informative video here. I start off by bringing in a YouTuber that covers the team the Buffalo Bills are facing off with. My good friend Mike, the AZ sports fan, does a great job covering the Cardinals. He's going to give us his insights on his thoughts on the game, strengths, weaknesses, and directly afterwards, I am going to be breaking down everything and anything that has to do with the Arizona Cardinals, really dissecting Kyler Murray, their offense, their defense, giving you the keys to victory, and ultimately end up giving you my prediction of how I see this game wrapping up by the time the clock hits 0. So do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on bell notifications. My goal is to reach 50,000 subscribers before the end of this NFL season, and if we all band together, I know that we can smash the hell out of that goal. Go on ahead and do it and join the family. Now, without further ado, let's welcome my good friend Mike, the AZ sports fan. Ladies and gentlemen, as promised, in order for us to really get a good understanding of the Arizona Cardinals, I had to bring my good friend Mike, the AZ sports fan, onto the channel to give us everything that we need to know about this squad. Mike, how you doing, man?
Good. I'm doing fantastic, man. Football's back. Football's back. We're one of the beginning slots on Sunday. So honestly, when I first heard the schedule, I was like, "Oh, that sucks." But honestly, I would rather take it here. Let's knock it out and let's see what happens on Sunday. I'm so excited.
Yeah, man, most definitely. And folks, by the way, his channel is linked right in the description. I highly recommend that you go on ahead and you give him a follow because I do understand that he does actually do his live game reaction. So say, for example, that the Buffalo Bills are winning, then you can feel free to go over there and troll him a little bit or just show him some love. He does a great job at promoting the Arizona Cardinals and the representative of the NFC West Roundtable as
Hell
well.
yeah.
He's been the man for quite some time. So, Mike, the Arizona Cardinals, man. All right. This game, this matchup after preseason, after the offseason, I think you have a pretty good understanding of what this team is looking like going into the 2024 season. So I think I kind of wanted to start off with the offense. Looking at it last year, didn't have an ideal offensive line, but now you have Kyler Murray coming back, a full season, hopefully, added Marvin Harrison Jr. What's your idea of like an offensive game plan for the Arizona Cardinals against the Buffalo Bills? I know that they are great at running the ball.
Yep.
Was definitely top in the league last year, and adding Trey Benson is going to be fantastic. But from a fan's perspective, how are you anticipating Gannon to really put together a game plan against this Buffalo Bills defense?
That's a great question. I mean, obviously, right now they're asking all sorts of good questions right now in the media, and obviously pertaining to how do you even stop Allen. But if we're talking about the offense right now, I think we lean on what we do best, and that's running the ball. And I think James Conner coming back, and he was healthy a good majority of last year. He did miss a few games, but I think the run game for the Arizona Cardinals was just a staple point in terms of like how different this offense is looking from the Cliff Kingsbury regime to now the Jonathan Gannon with Drew Petzing, the offensive coordinator. So I think that's what we're going to be leaning on a lot. We've been hearing a lot that this offense is going to be completely dramatically changed from obviously Cliff to now Drew Petzing. So I think that's going to be the game plan. And now with Kyler being added to the mix, just another dosage of a quarterback that's able to run, to continue to pat those stats, but also being a dynamic quarterback that he is. And a lot of people seem to kind of forgot in terms of who Kyler Murray was. And I think there's a lot of Cardinal fans that are really excited and chopping the bit because we now finally got our franchise quarterback to start the season. 2023, we didn't have it. We had Joshua Dobbs, and bless his heart, the underdog story was great, but like he wasn't the guy that was going to ever take the Cardinals anywhere. But now there's a sense of hope with Kyler Murray coming back because we've seen it. We've seen two-time Pro Bowler. We've seen a Rookie of the Year. So how do I expect the Cardinals offense to attack your defense? I think just to run the ball up the middle and see if you guys can stop James Conner. I know you guys lost Matt Milano, which is a huge blow. So I think the Cardinals are going to try to do their best to continue to run the ball down the throat because that's what we do best. Now, our offensive line, there was some upgrades. I guess if you want to call it, I think they're upgrades compared to what we used to have. We got Jonah Jonah Williams. We ended up slotting him over to the right side. We got Paris Johnson moving to the right, to the left, and then we added Evan Brown, which is a veteran, that he's on to the left guard. So we added some pieces. Our offensive line wasn't great last year. That's a fact. But we do have a better line this year around. We're just really hoping that we can kind of make sure that Jonah Williams can stay healthy. And he was obviously a former Bengal, so I think running the ball that's going to be the big key here.
Now, was the issue with the offensive line pass protection? Because first off, when you're throwing up numbers that like y'all ended up finishing like third in the league for like yards per game on the ground, it must have been pass protection why they were ranked so low. Is that right?
Yeah, you're talking about like numbers for.
Yeah. So like, so as far as like pass protection on PFF, for example, and I mean, of course, like when you read all of these various articles, like some of these like media heads are going to have them, right there. But last time I checked, it was like right at 26th based off of last year.
Yeah, I mean, our running back core is also a tribute to pass protection. We had Amari DeMarcado last year as well, but he was really far down the depth chart. He seems to be the best pass pro running back for the Cardinals. And then our offensive line wasn't great either. It was put together pretty much to try to do something in 2023. I don't know. It's hard to look at the stats from PFF and like seeing if it correlates, because I feel like we completely upgraded everything from like the defensive line to the offense. Now, I'm not going to say like leaps and bounds, right? But they've upgraded from what the roster was last year to this year. So like being the fact that the Cardinals were playing hard in a lot of these games. Now we got some blowouts here and there, like we got blown out a lot of times. Well, I guess 2 or 3 times, but we were in a lot of these games. We beat the Cowboys, we beat the Eagles. So like there was games that the Cardinals did very, very well. It's just with the roster that we had, it's hard for me to look at those stats from last year and say that it's going to translate, or at least I hope it doesn't, because we have upgraded in any sense of the imagination than we could have. So
okay, now shiny new toy over in Arizona. You have Marvin Harrison Jr. All right, probably the highest touted wide receiver prospect. We do understand that we didn't get to see a lot of him during the preseason. Some things coming out of OTAs. What exactly do you think his contribution is going to be on week 1? Is this going to be something where Gannon is going to say, hey, you know what? Like, we're really not going to unleash him like midway through the season? Or do you see him like leading this team in targets on Sunday, being the focal point that he was supposed to be once drafted?
Oh, focal point. Oh, absolutely. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. was brought in here for the sole purpose of being wide receiver 1 for the Arizona Cardinals. And rightfully so. Like you said, I mean, he was one of the best wide receiving prospects we've seen come out of college in a very, very long time. And I think the Cardinals are going to be using him that way as well, especially because Kyler Murray coming back the last 8 games, we didn't have a wide receiver 1. He was playing with guys like Greg Dortch and other guys that are probably not on this roster anymore. And obviously, kudos to Greg Dortch, but he's not a number 1. He's a solid number 3 slot guy. That's a dog. He plays bigger than his his body size. So I really do like him, but like those were the wide receivers that Kyler was playing with. Now Michael Wilson, which is slated to be our wide receiver 2, they only really got connected in the last like game or 2, and some might actually even say the last game of the season. So we got a solid wide receiving core. But talking about Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he's going to be leading the wide receiving core in targets for sure. And we got high praises over here, right? Some people were saying over 1,000, some people were saying over 7-8 touchdowns. Like on the offensive side of the ball, there's so much optimism. The defense, and I think we'll talk about that a little later on, but the defense is where the most unknown comes from this team. But yeah, I can definitely very well see us feeding Marvin Harrison Jr., but it's going to start with the run game. I think with the run game, if we're dominant on that, it opens up play actions. It opens up just kind of more things up the middle for Trey McBride, as well as Marvin Harrison Jr.
Got it. Most definitely. Should we be worried about Trey McBride as well? A lot of hype surrounding this dude. Really ended up coming into his own later half of the season last year. Should that be a concern for Bills Mafia going into it?
Yeah, I think so. And it's crazy too, because like we wouldn't have seen Trey McBride if we didn't get rid of Zach Ertz. It's just so crazy how the way that things happen. We drafted Trey McBride in the 2nd round, and you would think that they would give him an opportunity. But even with Cliff Kingsbury, there was no opportunity given because we had, Zach Ertz. But since we've seen him obviously start the season off with the injury, and then he got released because Zach Ertz wanted to get released, we saw a emergence of Trey McBride. And I do think that not just the Bills Mafia, but everybody in the NFL should be worried about a potential rising star in the tight end position for the Arizona Cardinals, because the way we're going to be using him, obviously up the middle, he's just an absolute playmaker. I'm really excited to see, and that's the thing too. A lot of people look at the Cardinals and say, "Oh, you only have Marvin Harrison Jr. That's not enough to get you guys over the hump, right? Or you're not going to win more games than the Chicago Bears." I get the Chicago Bears are loaded, right, offensively and defensively. I get that, but we can't disrespect the fact the Cardinals actually have weapons: Trey McBride, James Conner, now Marvin Harrison Jr., and then Michael Wilson going to his second year. And there's a lot of excitement for this offense for the Cardinals.
Yeah. And so this morning we saw Kyle Brandt actually pick the Arizona Cardinals to make the playoffs this year, which is interesting indeed, man. But shifting gears here, let's talk about your defense. Some changes here and there. Last year, we all understood that your defensive line was struggling to create consistent pressure.
Yeah.
Last year, ranked dead last at 32nd. Has this improved at all this offseason? Is this still a concern for you for this front seven that we should be seeing on Sunday?
Massive concern. Yeah, massive concern with the edge position primarily. I think where the pressure comes from the edge, we lack very, very mightily on this roster. And I think that probably might be one of the most weakest points on the entire team in general, offensively and defensively, is that edge position. And I think a lot of Cardinal fans, we're scratching our heads because we've noticed that we haven't seen a big push or any sense of urgency when trying to address this position. Right now we got Zaven Collins, which, he was a first round pick, but he mainly came in here playing middle linebacker. So the Cardinals ended up moving him over to the outside. Now, whether we see a dominant pass rush from him, it's remained to be seen. Last year, he only had 4 sacks or 4.5. And then we got Dennis Gardick, which was a special teams guy. And he had some, I think he had 6 sacks last year, which isn't nothing to sneeze at, but he's undersized. He's not a pure pass rusher in his stance. The guy that we were really focusing on in terms of hoping that he was going to be that guy for us was BJ Ojulari, which was a second round pick last year. Coming into second year, there was just so much high praises from him, and unfortunately he got hurt. He's done for the season, and the Cardinals still have not addressed that edge position. Now, we got some potential guys that they're going to probably use as swing type of guys. But yeah, there's a lot of concern with the edge rushers. Now, the interior pressure, Darius Robinson, which is another first round pick, he's on IR, which is unfortunate, but we did solidify adding more big NFL bodies on that line with Bilal Nichols as well as Justin Jones. They're not pressure guys. That's not like, we're not expecting to get 9, 6, 7, 8 sacks with them. They're probably going to be stopping the run. That's what they do. They stop the gap, stop the run. So although we have upgraded our D line, there's still a big concern when it comes down to those edge positions.
Got it. And then last year, definitely a lot of concerns with your corners on the perimeter. This year, you have 2 brand new ones. You have a rookie in Max Melton. And then let me see, name was also John Murphy Bunting, who was acquired during free agency. Has your confidence level improved at all compared to the cast that had that responsibility last year on the perimeter?
It's so tough. So it's Sean Murphy Bunting. So we ended up getting him. I think he was in Tennessee. He's a Super Bowl champion with the Buccaneers. So I don't know, like, it's so tough. Like, I want to believe that he's CB1 for the Cardinals. I think we signed him on a 3-year deal. And I think he's going to be CB1 for the Cardinals, but I don't think he's the future plan. I think it's going to be obviously Max Melton and then Garrett Williams that we drafted last year out of Syracuse. And he started the season injured. But I think that's going to be who we're going to be leaning on a lot. Is there concern? There is a little bit, but I also do think that a big majority of as to why our cornerbacks weren't like even listed as good, it was because our defensive line wasn't great last year. Like people were sitting back there like making a sandwich. Like it was that long in terms of we didn't have pressure at all. And I think that was one of the biggest problems that we had last year. Is everybody said it. We played so physical. We played with heart. But you can only play with heart so much. You need talent. You need NFL talent back there. And now I feel like we actually got that. So it's hard for me to really judge these cornerbacks, which, like I said, they got some promise. Sean Murphy Bunting is not the future, so I can't really, say too much about him. I want to see what he does in the first 3 or 4 weeks to really determine. But Max Melton and then Garrett Williams is going to be our future cornerbacks, especially if they shake out. So I'm least concerned about them because I feel like if our defensive line can pull their weight, I think they can flourish into being those guys. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But it's a lot to ask. I don't know. Like I said before, we don't have a lot of
Yeah,
pressure from the edge.
got it. Most definitely. So, really having you in the shoes of Sean McDermott, right? So, head coach of the Buffalo Bills, and then your game plan against this Arizona Cardinals defense. What are you doing to be successful?
That's a good question. So the Cardinals did not play any starters. Well, I mean, they played a few here and there, obviously depending on possession battles in preseason, but we didn't. So like, it's hard to get a good glance of what this Arizona Cardinals offense / defense is going to do this year. But I guess if I was Sean McDermott, I probably would look at what you looked at, right? Stats. I would lead the ball and try to run the ball down our throats and trying to see if your Bilal Nichols and your Justin Jones will truly be able to stop the run. That's what I think you guys should start doing. Run the ball down our throats, because it's crazy because the Cardinals were in a lot of games last year, but the moment that these offensive coordinators light bulb turned on and said, "Oh, let's run the ball," it almost kind of seemed like it was game over, especially if the offense couldn't do anything. That run defense last year, which I think is going to be improved, but last year was so abysmal that like the moment any offensive coordinator or offensive minded head coach said, "Let's run the ball down their throat," that's where it was game over for the Cardinals. So I would say test that. see if it's still the same. I think we've upgraded because your White's coming back, physical guy in the middle. So we're excited about him, but that's what I think you should do.
Run the damn ball. You heard it here, Bills Mafia. Last but not least, my friend, give me your final prediction, final score prediction Sunday by the time the clock hits 0. What do you got?
So this is such an intriguing game because I think this is a winnable game for the Cardinals. I know, call me crazy. This is the first game of the season. It's a lot of optimism.
Your interview, Mike.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals will squeak out a win. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm going to say 28-24 Arizona Cardinals win.
All right, folks, you heard it here first. Our good friend Mike, the AZ sports fan, rolling on into the channel. Again, I want to let you know that his channel is linked in the description. Definitely go on ahead and give him some love. And also check out the NFC West Roundtable, which will be premiering tonight. See him go to battle with Seahawks, 49ers, and Rams fans each and every single Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Mike, I appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
Shout out to my boy Mike for coming on. What a ballsy prediction for the game. We're going to have to see what the Buffalo Bills have to say about that. But right before we dive into that, if you are looking for something to do this weekend where you're just trying to kill time before kickoff, have no fear, Batavia Downs has come to the rescue. They are hosting their annual Vodka Gin and Potato Festival starting at 4 p.m. all the way running to 6 p.m. EST. Now, Thurman Thomas is set to make an appearance during this event, and I love when Batavia ends up throwing all of these nice little events. Fall is in the air. Gather your family, gather your friends. You're not going to want to miss this one. Ticket link is in the description. So I want to start off with Kyler Murray, and I know that all of us are very familiar with this young man, particularly the Hal Murray game just a couple of years ago. So I think a lot of us are really wanting revenge against this team, although this Arizona Cardinals team looks a hell of a lot different than the last time that we faced off with them. But of course, with Kyler Murray, outside of all the memes where, oh my God, if there is a Call of Duty tournament, watch out, you're definitely going to walk away. Still a very talented quarterback, if you were to ask me. Obviously, he's going to be having his ability to extend plays outside of the pocket, even though that his offensive line is less than ideal. But here are the numbers based off of the breakdown of Kyler, and then we'll transition over to the offense. So with Kyler, biggest tactic, biggest data point that I always like to take a look at is time to throw. He's sitting at around 2.75 seconds. It's not too fast by any stretch of the imagination, but he certainly gets the ball out at a reasonable time. He's about midway through the league. His average depth of target is around 7.8 yards, so he's not going to be that guy that's going to really stretch the field a lot. He's very weak in between the numbers according to his passing concept chart, but loves those little dink and dunks right in the middle, right in between the 5 and the 10-yard line from line of scrimmage. And then everyone always likes to have a good understanding of what his favorite concepts are. And let me tell you what, like most quarterbacks in this league, he is a play action guy. 72 dropbacks, and he completed 73.8% of his passes versus non-play action where there's 232 dropbacks, and he completed 63.19% percent of his passes while doing that. Luckily, not many dropbacks last year collected from the screen game, and that's always my biggest concern when it comes to this Buffalo Bills defense is stopping the screen. Only 27 dropbacks recorded since he ended up coming back week 10 of 2023. Now, dude is definitely a threat in the pass game, but we all know that he's super shifty. He's going to be rushing at least 5+ times per game, whether or not this is scripted or this is non-scripted. Loves being able to hug either sides of his offensive line and averages close to about 10 to 15 yards per carry. So this Buffalo Bills defense is really going to have to assign a spy to him or really be able to plan it out, because he's going to have to do something to adjust for so many question marks that he has with his weapons over on that offense. And how you got to do it, obviously, is performing pressure, quality organic pressure on this guy. His splits are something else here, folks. In 2023, and granted this was a limited sample size, however, when you look at his overall career, all of these numbers tend to be in line. When he is kept clean in the pocket, this man is completing 69.7% of his passes. But when he is pressured, and I'm not talking about blitzing, I'm talking organic upfront pressure, he's only completing 53.7% of his passes. Now, I'm not saying that we have to blitz this guy, because I'll tell you what, when he's blitzed, still a very, very good quarterback. He is completing 64.25% of his passes, and then while he is not being blitzed, 66.2%. So at the end of the day, need this organic pressure, need Gregory Rousseau, need Ed Oliver, need Daquan Jones, throw the rookie in there with Dwayne Carter if necessary. We need to get to this guy in the pocket. Completely collapse. I have a lot of question marks around this team's offensive line, in which that you will see, but that's going to be one of the keys in stopping Kyler. And not only getting pressure, but also being able to swallow him with inside of that pocket before he has the ability to break out and extend that play. Now, keep in mind that Kyler is very much a dink and a dunk sort of guy. He absolutely loves those short, 5 to 6 to 7 yard passes, as his average depth of target suggests. He's not the kind of guy that's going to be throwing deep down the middle of the field. His numbers are absolutely horrific when it comes into throwing in between the numbers, 10+ yards and more. So if he is going to dice us up in this pass game, we already know what the game plan is. So let's definitely hope that Bernard is on his P's and Q's. Whether or not that we're running some dime packages, we need all of our DBs aware and ready, because we know exactly where he's going to be throwing the football. Now, with Kyler Murray, obviously, this is the Cardinals offense. And what I want to do is really discuss what the Buffalo Bills defense needs to do against this offense as a whole. And folks, this team was pretty quiet during free agency. So vast majority of this team, especially on the offensive side of the ball, has been returning outside of their draft picks that have come in. And I want to point out a couple of things for you right here. Last year, the Arizona Cardinals had 184.9 passing yards per game. That was 26th in the league by itself. But I will give it to them. I have to give it to these guys. They finished third in all of football last year for rush yards per game, racking up about 139.1. Now, a lot of this data point could be skewed due to the fact that Kyler Murray didn't end up getting back until week 10. Maybe we ended up seeing a slight shift, but a lot of these yards were collected when they had that carousel of QBs going on over in Arizona. But James Conner certainly is no slouch. I was very high on this running back coming out of the draft last year, and Trey Benson out of Florida State. I don't really see Arizona implementing him this early, maybe somewhere more toward the middle of the season, but he's going to be something that we're going to have to stop. If you remember what I said about Kyler Murray regarding play action, the biggest thing we need to worry about is that this man is absolutely electric when it comes down into play action. So having James Conner and Trey Benson start off hot right out of the gate is just going to make that happen faster, and that's where Kyler Murray tends to excel. So run defense is going to have to eat. I'm talking Daquan Jones. I'm talking Ed Oliver. Throw Javon Solomon out there if necessary. I know he's a rookie, but he flashed incredibly during the preseason in his overall run defense. Shut down the run, you will shut down play action, and Kyler Murray will crumble. And it's not even like we can't succeed with this pass rush. We've already ended up giving you all of his pressure splits, where Kyler Murray barely completes 56% of his passes when pressured. A lot of that probably had to do with the fact that the Arizona Cardinals ranked 31st in the entire NFL last year for their offensive line play in pass protection. Run protection is a completely different story, but if you look up the Buffalo Bills defensive line and then also the Arizona Cardinals offensive line, there are mismatches galore. So there is not a single matchup where I would choose the Arizona Cardinals offensive lineman over our defensive lineman. So there is no excuse that this team cannot get in Kyler Murray's face. Now, obviously, we do need to talk about some of their weapons. You have Greg Dortch, you have Marvin Harrison Jr., you have Trey McBride that are going to be threats in the overall pass game. And one thing I have to say about that is that everyone is so high on McBride, really started catching his stride toward the end of the season, racked up about 800 yards. We're really going to need Taron Johnson and Bernard to hold their own. Luckily, both of them are tremendous in pass coverage, and I could definitely see us being able to shut that guy down. But then you also need to worry about Marvin Harrison Jr., who will be on the outside, and Greg Dortch as well. The thing about Marvin Harrison Jr., and so I love how he can be utilized, but pairing him with a Kyler Murray who cannot throw in between the numbers historically on a data point, and then also struggles 10 plus yards outside of the numbers as well, Marvin Harrison is likely going to be utilized right within Kyler Murray's strengths, and those are going to be those short passes and allowing Marvin Harrison to really go on ahead and win by yards after the catch. So my next point of what this team needs to do, what the Buffalo Bills need to do, is finish your damn tackles. So the keys for the Buffalo Bills defense to end up stopping the Arizona Cardinals is number one, shut down the run game. You know that they're going to be running heavy so that they can establish play action. Number two, finish your damn tackles. All right, listen, I do not want any more missed tackles out here. Let's not shoot ourselves in the foot. And number three, pressure Kyler Murray. We have no excuse. This is literally the 31st ranked offensive line in the NFL. There is no excuse that we cannot win. Now, next up, we have to talk about the Cardinals defense, what the Buffalo Bills offense needs to do in order to be successful. And folks, I have to tell you, if this Buffalo Bills offense does not score more than 28 points, it is time to sound the alarm bell. It really is. These are the numbers that they ended up putting up last year. And like I said, really outside of just a couple of random additions, they have the exact same defense right now. They added 2 new cornerbacks, Max Melton, who is a rookie. I mean, listen, if anybody has a target on their back, if I'm Joe Brady, it's this kid. Then John Murphy Bunting as well, who is just a free agent acquisition to come in with it. So the outside corners are about to be an absolute liability for this team. We need to attack them. Obviously, need to give a lot of credit right to Jalen Thompson, one of the safeties next to Budda Baker, who collected 4 interceptions last year, and then Budda Baker, a Pro Bowler, almost always. There's going to be some players to watch out for, but as a unit, folks, just listen to this. 26th ranked secondary last year by itself. And the only reason I think they were last was just because of the fact that Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson skewed those numbers. So next up, hear me out. 32nd ranked defensive line, folks. Read that again. Rewind this video and hear that again. Their best pass rusher was Gardeck, had 42 pressures and only 6 sacks last year. And so one report I was reading said that one of the rookies they just ended up drafting has the best opportunity of being the best defensive lineman during this year. Defense last year allowed 26.8 points per game. That was 31st in the NFL, and they allowed 143 rush yards per game, which was dead last in the NFL. Now, I will give them a little bit of credit. Has to do with the fact that their passing D allowed 212 yards per game, number 12. And I would tell you, hey man, listen, a lot of that has to do with Budda Baker, right? A lot of that has to do with that safety tandem. Or maybe with teams who are just so successful at running the football, there is absolutely zero reason to pass in the first place. That is likely where I am going with this. The way that I look at it, this is exactly what I think the Buffalo Bills need to do to completely dominate this. Number one, run the damn ball. Okay? Out of all of their new additions to this team, they really only brought in 2 new corners. And when I see that a team is allowing 143 rush yards per game, this is going to be like a game very similar to what we saw from the Dallas Cowboys last year. Feed James Cook, feed Ray Davis, chew the clock, dominate time of possession. We know that the Arizona Cardinals can run the ball efficiently on offense. Make them use Kyler Murray. Make them pass. Don't allow them to utilize their strengths. And how we do that is time of possession. Offensive line, like I said, I see our offensive linemen dominating their pass rush. When your best pass rusher only had 6 sacks last year, it tells me that Josh Allen is going to be able to quite literally make a sandwich, call a friend, and then complete a pass. He's going to have all the time in the world to complete his passes. So next up is no turnovers. I'm looking at you, Josh Allen. Number 1, because I'm getting sick of all my friends rubbing it in my face. And number 2, we don't want to give these guys any other excuse or any advantage. Don't shoot ourselves in the foot. Now then, last but not least, there are some massive question marks when it comes into their perimeter corners, specifically Max Melton, who will be starting. I don't know who is going to be lined up against him, but target him early and often. Whether or not that it's Keon Coleman, whether or not that it's Khalil Shakir lined up on the outside, if it's Curtis Samuel, that is going to be a matchup that we need to take advantage of. Watch out for those damn safeties. Definitely watch out for Budda Baker. Certainly watch out for Jalen Thompson, because those guys are absolute ball hawks. But if Josh Allen can dominate outside of the numbers within like the 10 and the 15-yard mark from the line of scrimmage, this game could get ugly fast for the Arizona Cardinals. So you heard it here first. Run the damn ball, no turnovers, and pick on those perimeter corners early and often. Now, this team does run a 3-4 defensive scheme. I really don't have a lot of concern for their linebacker room either, so I could see Dalton Kincaid being a part of the picture, but just play some good complimentary football and give the people of Buffalo a good game to witness. Now, as far as my prediction, folks, I'm going to go Buffalo Bills 28, Arizona Cardinals 14. I just have a feeling that this Bills team is about to go out there and leverage their weakness against the run, short, methodical passes. Don't be surprised if this game turns out to be the Buffalo Bills having possession for like 34, 35 minutes. It's going to be one of those games. I think that it's going to force Kyler Murray and this offense to rely on the pass game in order to play catch up. I do see them winning a couple of things because obviously they do have a great run game, but overall, I see this as a sound win for Buffalo. And so then afterwards, we would be preparing for a short week to go to Miami. So folks, that's going to have to do it for my preview video today. Again, do me a favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on bell notifications. Goal is 50,000 subs before the end of the season. And also, please tune in to my live play-by-play reaction on Sunday. That is absolutely right, folks. I do this each and every single year. It's like I'm watching football with my boys, so I highly recommend that you have those bell notifications on so you do not miss that one either. Thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, I will see you tomorrow.